This edition of Tuck Talk is brought to you by Bags, making travel easier, and Madison Social, the place to catch the Noles when they're on the road.
Well, welcome into Tuck Talk, a remote location for myself and Bob Ariamasudi, Bob Ferranti, joining you as we wrap up the season for Florida State men's and women's basketball. Of course, now with the coronavirus, not just all around the world, it's made its way to the United States, and it is taking hold and taking effect, which is essentially canceled every sports season that is known to all of us sports fans. And Bob, for FSU, unfortunately, that is a heartbreaker because the NCAA tournament has been canceled. Florida State was poised to have at least a 2 seed, and the Noles now will have to kind of just think about what has been.
I hate it for them, for the coaches. I recall, sitting talking with Charlton Young, assistant coach of Florida State, and he's a guy who doesn't get much sleep when he's, leading up in those days before he's scouting an opponent. And, you can tell those days of preparation, they're fun, but they're also stressful. I think he enjoys it, but you can really tell the energy, mentally, emotionally, physically, that they're all putting into those games. And for them to not have a chance to have that shining moment in the NCAA tournament, it's really tough, I think, on the players and the coaches the most. I don't know. I think this team really could have gone a long way. I think they could have gone Final Four really as far as they wanted just because of that depth and defense. So it's frustrating, but I think as we're going to talk about upcoming, so many good memories from this season, from these players, memories that we'll think back to for decades of these players, guys like Devin and Trent especially.
Yeah, I do want to thank our sponsors who have been by our side all season. This will be, one of our final episode for at least the time being until next basketball season. We'll take a hiatus after this, but Bags has been a partner of ours from the beginning. Bob, they've done such a great job of having our back, a great service that I know right now the airline community is really struggling, as is really most businesses all throughout the United States. But Bags, hopefully when this thing resolves and you guys are back out flying and getting to your destinations, that you call that team up and for $40, you'll have someone pick up your luggage and take it to wherever you need. I definitely believe good times are ahead of us again. And then Madison Social, they've been a partner of ours this season as well. And I know they're struggling right now doing a bunch of deals with the restaurants being closed down. If you can, go support them. They've got a bunch of to-go meals, and they're doing their best to stay afloat. And Bob, we appreciate both of them, no doubt.
Yeah, with Bags, an FSU family, it's a business started by Seminoles, so think about them when you can, when you're able to travel again. That may be months from now, but think about them. And with Madison Social, we wanted to contribute to them a little bit over the weekend, and we're not going out too much to be quite honest, but we wanted to give some money toward Matt Thompson and Madison Social as one of their efforts is they're helping to feed doctors and nurses locally and providing some good meals to them free of charge. So Madison Social is doing all kinds of neat things. So whether you want to do takeout, whether you want to buy a gift card and use it, 6 months from now on your next trip to Tallahassee, think about folks like Madison Social and everybody around Tallahassee. Try to support them and maybe bank away some of those gift cards, for the next time you're up in town.
Yeah, they're doing 75-cent wings on Mondays and, the pretzels with the BLT dip on Tuesdays. And they've got all sorts of deals with pizza and of course, Central and what they're able to do to help, that for the table group restaurants. So if you can shop local, shop at Madison Social. They're awesome, have been supporters of ours, and they're a staple in this Florida State community. But not just with Madison Social, if you can, go out and support your local businesses. They're really struggling right now with everything that's going on. And I'm sure, Bob, as you mentioned, did his part, and I'll be doing my part hopefully sooner as I can and going out there and helping out those who have supported us as well. Bob, with this basketball team, 26-5 this season, they win the ACC regular season championship. What kind of legacy do you feel like this team has left in the Tallahassee market?
I honestly, as much as it is the performance on the court, when you look in the stands, and I caught myself, and I know you did too, those games when Florida State was playing so well, especially it seemed like the second half of so many games, the atmosphere. I think this team left behind one of, you don't want to miss that team play. And it used to be, going all the way back to my college years, students came out for Carolina and Duke. They came out when, I remember when Tim Duncan was here with Wake Forest and Stephon Marbury at Georgia Tech, and we wanted to see those guys. But what it's become is, it's a ticket where you want to see the Florida State team, those players, and you want to see the ACC's best. So to me, I can talk on and on about guys like Devin and Trent and all those guys, but what they left is a legacy of just an incredible atmosphere. I never really thought I'd see the Tucker Center be that intense, and I can't tell you how many times we did this year. So that was really, really cool to see this season.
Yeah, I think legacy is more important than anything that you leave behind. And for these players, their ability to pretty much have the entire Florida State community and the Florida State fan base almost fall in love with them this season, I think that's going to pay dividends for this program as it goes forward. The legacy we talk about, you'll hang a banner. Yeah, that's awesome. And not to shortchange that, but like you mentioned, the fact that the stadium and the arena is now full, the fact that teams that come into the Tucker Center know that you're just not expected to win anymore when you come to Tallahassee, that this is one of the best home court advantages in all of college basketball. The fact that, exactly like you just mentioned, the ticket sales, they are a tougher ticket to come by these days. The student section's full nearly every game out. And I think next year they will be a hot ticket because of what this team was able to do. This culture that Florida State has helped build is what essentially paves the way for more guys like a Scotty Barnes and future recruits to come and choose Florida State. You may see 2 or 3 5 stars in a single class in Tallahassee because this basketball team, and I mean, largely last year's too, but this has been a process. And I think this team stamped that Florida State is here to stay. John Rothstein put out an article today talking about how you should expect Florida State to be elite from here on out. I think he was kind of touching on the fact that some preseason top 25s for next year had FSU borderline top 25. And Rothstein's been one of those that has harped, even without Vassell and Patrick Williams, who we'll touch on in a little bit, you should expect Florida State to be a top 15 program. And he's got FSU at 13 right now, factoring in all the losses that the Noles will have going into next year. So I think the legacy has been stamped. Leonard Hamilton, he seems like he's still got 5 to 10 years left in him because he seems like he doesn't age. And this program is only going to the next level. Bob, in terms of, let's get to some awards. Who would you say is the most improved player on this Florida State basketball team as you watch them throughout the season?
I'm torn, and I think there's really 2 good candidates here. I'm going to go with Balsa simply because I know I've told this story, but it's worth reminding. When Balsa arrived and we first saw him in those open October scrimmage situations, I thought that's a redshirt candidate. Doesn't know what he's supposed to be doing, doesn't know where he's supposed to be on the court, very tentative. And then you saw him 6 weeks later, after a couple exhibitions, a couple games in, and those non-conference teams, they don't have a lot of height, a lot of athleticism, so Balsa was kind of doing what he wanted. But you immediately saw, wow, there is this crazy upside with this guy. And I think, honestly, he embraced kind of that role. I think it's admirable that freshmen come in here as highly recruited guys, but they're willing to give you the max that they have over the course of 10 minutes. That's what Balsa did. The numbers aren't flashy. It's just 4.7 points, 2.4 rebounds. The blocks aren't crazy. He only had 7. But I think you can kind of see that first year of college basketball, he really started to blossom and was a big contributor on certain nights. So that was a guy who, again, it wouldn't have shocked me any other year. Going back to October, that guy could have been a redshirt type. But from as far as he came from October into the ACC schedule, I was really impressed. Yeah,
for me, I think you make a really Really good case for Balsa Koprivica. For me, I'm going to counter and say it's between Raekwon Evans and, I think, Patrick Williams. Obviously, he's leaving, but I thought Patrick Williams took a huge step from game one, to the end of the season, and just his comfortability and putting his fingertips and his touch on games. Now, as far as Ray Evans goes, Florida State was desperately in need of a second ball handler. And I thought, coming off of the torn hamstring and having to deal through all of that Raekwon Evans really didn't find himself until really about December or January. And then once we saw the comfortability kick in, he showed that without Trent Forrest, I think I feel comfortable with having the ball in Evans' hands next year as one of the primary ball handlers. And you saw that game against Louisville where he had some big time moments in that game in clutch situations. And so for me, I would say Ray Evans, but I actually think Balsa Koprivica has an incredible case as well. Bob, as we look towards next season, we have to talk about two players that have declared for the NBA draft. Patrick Williams, Devin Vassell, both in the last week have bid their farewells to Florida State. They've been huge impact players. And before we talk more about them, we had the chance to actually sit down with Devin Vassell. He joined us earlier last week to just touch on his decision to go pro and other things that have led him during this coronavirus outbreak to try and stay in shape and what he's hearing on his NBA draft stock. So enjoy this from Florida State's potential first-round pick, maybe even a definite lock for a first-round pick, Devin Vassell. Now joining us on the podcast, Tuck Talk with Devin Vassell. This time he is a newly declared NBA draft prospect, getting ready to hopefully get his name called in the first round of the 2020 NBA draft. First off, Devin, thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you for having me.
Devin, just take me through your decision. And I know you had to talk with your family a little bit, but what made this the right time for Devin Vassell to go ahead and try and take that next step?
It was definitely a tough decision. The way the season ended and everything, it was definitely tough. Talk to the coaches, talk to my family. Prayed a lot, just asking God, for a sign. And I was talking to, a lot of people, talking to my coaches, and they were super supportive. And I was getting back some good news. And, when I've heard that I might have the possibility to go first round, it's kind of like a dream come true. Ever since I was a little kid, I've always wanted to play in the NBA. And for my name to have a chance to be called first round, I feel like I had to take advantage of that opportunity.
From getting to know you a little bit now the last couple of years, you play with an incredible chip on your shoulder. When you came out of high school, not everyone knew about Devin Vassell. You didn't have this, this rah-rah parade of praise coming out, and, you didn't have the biggest offer list. How do you felt like that kind of helped you have that chip on your shoulder and want to prove people that Devin Vassell can play in the NBA one day?
Yeah, kind of like you said, when I came out of high school, I was very underrated. I didn't have that many offers. And I always had confidence in myself. I felt like I was, definitely an underrated guy, but I just knew as long as I kept my head down and kept working, that eventually people would realize and notice the talent that I had and that God has blessed me with. And I just try to stay in the gym, not focus on what everybody else was doing, just trying to focus on the gym and just getting better every day, lifting and just getting better. If it wasn't physically, then mentally, just watching film. And I feel like with me doing all that, it just helped me to, succeed in these 2 years at FSU.
So now what does this process look like for you? I know with the coronavirus out there and these crazy times, they're canceling events left and right. How do you try and showcase what you can do? How do you have contact with NBA teams and kind of go through that process now in a different time?
Yeah, it's definitely, the coronavirus has changed a whole lot for the NBA. And, it's still kind of hard, really trying to determine everything. We don't know if it's going to be a combine, still looking to see if there's going to be a draft, which I'm pretty sure there's definitely going to be a draft. But it's just going to be really on the agency that I sign with. I know that, whichever agency I end up signing with, that it's going to be, a great team. We're going to have a great team. And, they're going to really talk to some of the teams. And I have a couple people who's been talking to some of the teams, some of my, like my workout coach and some of my agent coaches. I've just been talking to some teams and giving them great information about me, which I truly appreciate. So, I mean, like you said, it's difficult because it's not like any other year, but, it's God's plan. So whatever he has planned for me, I know it'll work out.
No doubt about it. And just so that we can confirm and make sure you are planning on signing with an agent, right? You are 100% locked in to go into the NBA, just to make sure.
Yes, I am.
So how do you keep, in shape now? How do you work out? I mean, this is, they're not letting people out of their homes sometimes.
Yeah. I mean, luckily for here, we don't have a curfew yet right now. And, I've been, blessed to have some people be able to open up the gyms for me. And it'll just be me in the gym, basically just me and the guy that I work out with. So it'll just be us two. And, we have hand sanitizer, we have all that, making sure we have Clorox wipes, just wiping down everything, making sure that everything's sanitary. And, I even been running at the parks. This morning I got up around 11 and we have ran at the park, ran a good amount, did some push-ups and everything, just trying to stay in shape because, I mean, we really don't know what's going on right now. You don't know when this is all going to clear up. So just being ready for whenever, for whatever, basically.
So what do you tell NBA scouts now? I mean, how do you feel like you profile to the NBA in today's NBA game?
I just feel like I'm just a great fit for anybody. I feel like I could guard 1 through 3. I could guard multiple positions. On offense, if you need me just to be a catch and shoot person, I can do that. If you need me to help the offense, get the ball moving, or just however a team needs me, I feel like I could be used anyway. I feel like my freshman year, even in college, I kind of showed that my freshman year, I was more just of a knockdown shooter and played defense more like how some people say in the NBA, like a 3-and-D guy. That's kind of how I was my freshman year. But I feel like my role increased my sophomore year, and I just started doing a lot more, getting to the basket, getting the mid range, just showing off everything. And so I feel like, for any team, I feel like I could just help them out in the long run. Not just now, but in the long run. And, whatever team ends up drafting me just knows that they're going to get a great player, not only just on the court, but off the court with community work and just being able to help, if my teammates or, just help people in the community. I'm always looking forward to doing stuff like that.
Absolutely. You showed extremely well in all sorts of departments at Florida State, on the court, off the court. Devin, how exciting would it be if you heard your name in the NBA lotto? I mean, the people are talking potentially a lotto pick for Devin Vassell. What would that mean to you and your family?
It would definitely be a blessing. I mean, it's not enough. It's not any words I really feel like I could describe for that feeling. I would say it's a lot of hard work. A lot of times in the gym where nobody sees, getting up early, staying in the gym late, just all that. And I just feel like, I don't want to say it all paid off because at the end of the day, it's still a lot of work to be done. But, it's just be a dream come true. And, I'm fighting my way as much as I can. That's why I'm staying in shape and making sure I do however, everything I can do, to be in the best shape and be in the best position I could be. So wherever my name is called, I'll be able to fit that team and help that team out.
In terms of what Florida State's done for you, Devin, I mean, I saw an article earlier today from Jonathan Isaac just talking about the brotherhood at Florida State. But I don't know if a lot of people give FSU enough credit for developing talent and developing players to be ready for the NBA. Just how much did, that entire coaching staff from Ham to Coach Jones to obviously, Coach Gates and Coach Smith, CY, how much has Florida State played a part in your development and getting you ready for the NBA?
Yeah, I mean, they played a huge part. It's such a great staff over there. It's, they all complement each other well. They just really, the best part I think about Florida State and that coaching staff is that they really care. They really care for their players and for them to, get better. And if they see something in you, they're going to push and make sure that they get it out of you. Sometimes they don't, they might say something and you're like, why are they on my case? But you got to remember at the end of the day, it's all out of love. So, I mean, I just got to give credit to them because every single time, maybe it was a day where I wasn't feeling well or, I just felt like it wasn't my day and I was kind of moving slow or something. They would always jump onto me and make sure that I'm becoming the best person and best player that I can be and the best leader that I can be. And they've really helped me out tremendously. There's not enough credit I can give to them.
How much satisfaction, Devin, do you have in what you've been able to do at Florida State. Just watching it, I know when you were in high school, Florida State had started their rise, and your 2 years in Tallahassee, you guys have been able to take the Seminoles to the next step. Just how validating is it when you're cutting down a net, against Boston College and claiming ACC champions get to hang a banner?
Yeah, it's huge. I mean, making history is crazy. It's a feeling I can't explain. I mean, it's just a feeling of joy and just relief. Just everything. I mean, to be able to become the first team in Florida State history to become regular season champions is amazing. I feel like right now, the fact that we're changing the culture here at Florida State and having sold out games and just everything, it's just crazy. And I mean, during the season, I felt like we weren't really thinking about it because, you think about it and you get the head big and all this. But, now that we look back at it, I talked to Trent, I talked to, all my teammates, and I'm just saying like, wow, we're really doing something special here and we got to keep it going. So, I mean, it's been a great 2 years for me, but I know that, it's time for my brothers to, make that next step. And even with Scotty and Sadar and another, a couple of them coming in, it's going to be a great team next year. And I'm ready to see what they can do.
No doubt about that. And then, Devin, finally, any last message you have for Florida State fans out there and recapping your 2 years in Tallahassee?
For these past 2 years, I mean, the experience I've had at Florida State is incredible. It's been unmatched. For me to come in as a 3-star recruit and not really people knowing about me to, being able to leave after 2 years and being, a first round pick and just the support that all FSU has given me has been incredible. Just walking into the gym or just walking out off the court and hearing the applause and seeing everybody stand up and seeing sold out stands. I mean, it's a feeling like no other. And for all the support they've given us, and we go on the road and we still see people with Florida State shirts on and everything. They've helped us out so much, and I don't think they realize, but I just want to give a big shout out to thank you to all of them, from alumni, boosters, to the student section, to just the regular Florida State fans. I really appreciate everything that you guys done for me. And I mean, if there's any way that, I could repay you guys and just do anything, I mean, it's you guys have helped us out, not only me, but us as a Florida State basketball program. We've helped us out tremendously, and I'm just so thankful for that.
Well, Devin, you made it easy to root for you during your couple of years here. You come from a great family. You did it the right way, and it's only getting started for you. Thank you so much for joining us here on Tuck Talk, and stay safe and best of luck in the draft.
Thank you.
When the Noles are on the road, the best place to catch them, along with all your fellow FSU fans, is Madison Social. Cheer on the Noles with great food, drinks, and fun atmosphere with plenty of TVs, so you don't miss one bit of the action. Madison Social in College Town on the corner of Woodward and Madison. The place to catch the Noles when they're on the road. MadisonSocial.com.
Awesome stuff there from Devin and Bob for Florida State, and for Devin. What a job he did from year 1 to year 2. We just mentioned who we thought improved throughout this season, but man, we would be remiss if we didn't mention how much Devin Vassell improved from his freshman year to his sophomore year, where last year he was just kind of a sniper and a very role player like type of ability, and would hit the three if you let him. He would play good defense, was long, kind of figuring it out with all those seniors. And then this year, he becomes one of the best players in the Atlantic Coast Conference.
Yeah, I think you make a good point for Devin being most improved too. The only difference that I think there is we kind of saw those early glimpses in that freshman year. It was just that he didn't have to play so much. That team was also incredibly deep. So deep, in fact, that, Trent Forrest mentioning it on his teleconference with us, that, there was some real discussion about redshirting Devin, his freshman year. And looking back on it, you think, man, that would have been crazy. And this is a guy who can really contribute off the bench immediately. And it was good to see Devin kind of blossom. I looked at him going into the year as a better jump shooter, but a version of Terrence Mann in a sense that he could do a little bit of everything. There was that ability to drive, to shoot the jumper, to play defense, to distribute, that team guy. And I think we saw from Devin a pretty pretty remarkable run there. I thought the way he tailed off a little bit late in the year, that he might have been playing himself into thinking that he needed to come back for one more year. But honestly, can't fault him at all for thinking it's time to go, because I think he's ready to leave a mark on an NBA team. I think he's ready. I wouldn't say to start in the NBA, but clearly, can he be a guy off the bench who can spark a team? Is he willing to do just about anything? You know, we've seen the Clippers felt like it was worth investing in a guy like Terrence Mann. I think another team will see the film of Devin Vassell, and they will see a guy who's ready to jump in and contribute for them right away.
Yeah, you know, in the month of January up until early February, Vassell was incredible for Florida State. And those are, you know, the performances against Louisville in the KFC Yum Center, Wake Forest, where he had 17 on the road, 18 against Virginia. Matter of fact, in a 3-game span, Wake, Virginia, Miami, he scored 17, 18, and 23. And I think that's when he kind of stamped his arrival as one of the best players in the ACC, not just, you know, a really nice player, because then he followed it up at Virginia in a loss with 17 a few weeks later, and then 27 at Virginia Tech. And at that point, you know, we kind of knew, all right, I think Devin Vassell is probably on his way out. I think me and you had talked about it, that there's a real chance that you don't see Devin Vassell in a Seminole uniform come next season. And yeah, those numbers tailed off just a little bit as teams adjusted their scouting reports on him, but he was solid. I mean, double digits and 6-7 more games to finish the year. And what he does defensively, he will fit the NBA, Bob, right now. I think between him and Pat Williams, I think Devin Vassell is more of an immediate impact player next season for the NBA, just because of his ability to play defense and have a consistent 3-point jump shot.
I would agree with that. You know, Devin's a little bit older, whereas, you know, Patrick was even a younger freshman coming in. I think he's still 18 years old, right? So Patrick, look, Patrick's got a ton of upside, and that athleticism is just crazy, the way he can get up and not just dunk, but rebound. I really like what Patrick can do. You know, again, selfishly, kind of wanted Patrick to stick around one more year, but I think this is the reality with a 5-star type of prospect, that they're going to be looking to go somewhere where they can learn and mature and play a year and showcase their abilities. And if it feels right, they'll go. Again, I kind of wanted Patrick to come back, but at one point I even remember writing the story and saying, hey, enjoy it while you can, because, you know, this is a guy with those few home games left. Come out and enjoy him, come out and see him, because he was kind of putting together that second half of an ACC season where you thought this is going to be it. So yeah, I'm not 100% sold he's a first-round pick, and I will only say that because I watch the NBA draft every year, and Fran Fraschilla, you know, start talking about these guys from Europe that you've never heard of, you've never really seen them. They come out of nowhere, and the NBA falls in love with the international players that they've scouted. So I don't know if you put Patrick in the top, let's say 25, 30 or so guys, but he's in that group that I think if you give him time, if you are an NBA team that is committed to developing a Patrick Williams, you're going to be very happy with those results down the road.
I think you're 100% correct, Pat. I think, and you got to remember, Bob, next year's NBA draft is supposed to be absolutely loaded with a lot of guys that are coming in from high school that will be, you know, automatic lotto picks. Scotty Barnes is one of them, but, you know, I think many are thinking at worst he's a top 15 NBA draft pick next season after he plays his freshman year at Florida State. How much do you think Patrick Williams was, you know, given the advice that this might be your best chance of getting into that first round would be this season?
Oh, I think there's no doubt he's looking at it from all different perspectives. And, you know, this is also the benefit of having a head coach like Leonard Hamilton and a couple of longtime assistants like Stan Jones and Charlton Young. It's a family. They're going to be incredibly honest, even though they'd probably love to say the words, stay, please, please stay. You know, at the same time, they want to do what's best for, you know, for Patrick Williams, for Devin Vassell, for the families. And also it should be noted that, you know, Leonard Hamilton willingly calls up NBA teams and says, what's your scouting report on these guys? What do you think? What do you see that they do right? What do they need to work on? So much like an NFL player has that draft advisory committee where they can get an opinion from general managers, I'm going to trust the opinion that I hear from a Leonard Hamilton or a Stan Jones, guys who can say, hey, look, we're hearing this. This is the feedback we're getting. If you want to make the jump, by all means, we think it is a good decision and you're not hurting yourself. And I think that's really cool to see. We're seeing coaches that are very appreciative of what a player has done for the program, but also saying, okay, we respect it. It is your time to go if you so choose.
And you got to remember, Patrick Williams is very young for his class of freshmen that he was in this year, and he just turned 18, and he'll be turning 19 in August, I believe, of next year. So a lot of room to grow. I think that's going to be a positive for a lot of NBA teams, as you've got this really young player that has his potential and his best development ahead of him. And so maybe Patrick Williams does slide into that back end of that first round, maybe in the top 30, and you find a way to maybe put him in the G League for a year or two and see how he adjusts as he develops. And yeah, boy, though, we see the talent level for Patrick Williams. That jump shot is starting to really come on. He's got next level athleticism, strong, big hands, and he really likes to compare himself, at least, not obviously Kawhi Leonard is Kawhi Leonard for a reason, but Patrick Williams really looks up to Kawhi and wants to be a lot like him in terms of being able to play defense at a high level, handle the ball, shoot the 3-point shot. And, they both play with a lack of emotion, so to speak, almost robotic in the face when they're playing. So that comparison could be pretty accurate. You have to remember Kawhi Leonard also was nowhere near as good as he is now when he was at San Diego State. He was really a good basketball player with a lot of work left to do. And boy, did he ever do that work, because he is arguably the best player in the world right now. Any chance, Bob, in your opinion, that Trent Forrest can find a back end of the second round draft spot?
We had this kind of conversation for years about Terrence Mann, and we wondered, is he going to get drafted? Our team's going to be able to appreciate the all-around contributions that he made. And we kind of wondered optimistically if he would. And I think because we saw him night in and night out, we thought, well, yeah, there should be a team out there that takes a shot at him. I would argue yes, from this standpoint. If you need an energetic backup point guard, a leader, a guy who can play defense, a guy who can drive, a guy who doesn't care about how many minutes he gets, and a guy who's willing to learn, I think you're going to draft a guy like that. But again, and maybe you can speak to this more than me, I wonder how many franchises are willing to draft and stash. And as you said, maybe put a guy in a developmental league. Potentially, that's a guy you want to draft and stash and develop, because you just see that upside where he can really be a contributor to you down the road. I feel like Trent has value because of everything that he does. Now, if you're looking at the deficiency as a jump shooter, you're going to immediately say no, but you're also going to be overlooking everything else that the guy can do. So that would just be my argument.
Yeah, for me, I think with Trent, he's one of those players, Bob, that I think is really going to be hurt by, this coronavirus kind of stopping all of sports and stopping the processes of the draft. And you got to remember, there's a bunch of these events, and the NBA Combine being one of them, but there are a lot of different events that allow some of these players to go and work out in front of a lot of scouts for NBA teams. And with all of those being canceled, it's seemingly canceled. I don't think they're going to have a combine, but they may. Trent Forrest could have really stood to use that and then really push himself forward in the pecking order and up some draft boards. I thought his momentum was starting to build. His 3-point shot was a lot better than it was a season ago. Trent finished this year at 28%, which is nothing to write home about, but it definitely showed an improvement for him. But with Forrest, you're 6'3.5", 6'7", 6'8" wingspan at the point guard position. He's a winner. And these NBA teams, they really put a book on someone, and it really encapsulates the entire player, not just on the court, but as a person and what he means to that program. And you would be hard pressed to find a player that meant more to their program in the country than Trent Forrest meant to Florida State. And, with all those NBA scouts that were there for the Louisville game, Forrest played really well in Tallahassee against the Cardinals and, dunked on Jordan Wara, who many think could be a first-round pick, and that showed an elite level of athleticism in front of a lot of scouts. But, yeah, Bob, not having an NCAA tournament, I think, hurt Trent Forrest a lot. Not just obviously from a team perspective and trying to win a championship or getting to a Final Four, but for him personally to have those extra 3 to 4 games potentially where he could show what he could do on the highest level of college basketball against some really good players. No doubt that he would have to go up against probably a lot of other potential NBA players. I think this whole thing has hurt Trent a lot in terms of not being able to show more and not being able to go out and work out for some of these scouts. And that's what I hurt for him the most in terms of the next level. But that's not to say, I think a lot of people know who Trent Forrest is. I mean, he, like I said, he means a lot to Florida State. He's a winner. That's going to be checked in the positive category by every NBA franchise. They're going to talk to Leonard Hamilton and all around the league. And I think nobody respects, there isn't a player in the ACC, I think, that's respected more for the toughness and the grit and for just the aura that he presents as much as Trent Forrest. Coaches all throughout the year were just praising what Forrest had embodied in his 4 years in Tallahassee. And so I do think Trent has a chance to be a back end of the second round. I'm not putting my money on it, but I could totally see him being drafted on athleticism, the ability to get to the rim. He'll be a great pick and roll player in the NBA. And if he continues to improve that 3-point shot, which it seems like he has over the years, I could see a Patrick Beverley type of comparison where, he'll play lockdown defense, can get to the rim every now and then. And if he improves that jump shot, could find a way on a roster because I make the Beverley comparison, but Pat Beverley is obviously a much better shooter than Trent Forrest is right now. But Bob, I think Trent's got a shot. And even if he doesn't get drafted, I do think we will one day see Trent Forrest be playing in the NBA.
I think he will have the opportunity to play professional basketball somewhere. And when all this settles down, there's going to be a lot of people evaluating, where they want to go, how do they work out. There's going to be a lot of video workouts, to your point of you don't have a combine like, was it Portsmouth or Chicago where all the players come together. Not going to have those, but can somebody take some video of what Trent's doing? I kind of want to see him play somewhere. And if it's not in the NBA, if it's not in the developmental league, if somebody doesn't want to draft and stash him, maybe it's in Italy or Greece, a high level of European basketball where he can really show what he can do. And we know NBA scouts are over there. We know they're over in Europe. So again, I think he's a guy who's going to get that opportunity. It's really just a question of where.
No doubt about that. And, I look at some of these NBA comparisons and I look at, some of these scouts that different websites do on Trent. And I think a lot of people think that, obviously the jump shot is a weakness. And if he can work on that, it'll definitely help his chances, but he could project into a backup point guard in the NBA at some point in his career. I don't think it would be, unlikely to see him go to the G League for a year or two and then sneak onto an NBA roster, maybe a 10-day contract at first. But I do think Trent Forrest, if anything we've learned about Trent over his 4 years is, I've said the word already, he's a winner and he finds a way. And that guy is the last person I would count out in any situation.
Yeah, 104 wins just about says it all, right? I mean, the guy figures out how to organize a group and lead them. And Leonard Hamilton likes those ACC blowouts, and that's what he gets. He gets a win by 1 point, by 4 points, by 10, and he makes it happen. I think, yes, Leonard Hamilton will make a bunch of phone calls. I think Trent's going to have a spot where he can play basketball, but really just a question of where.
And now as we move forward and start looking at next year's team, I should say, this year's team has, officially had the door closed, and we move forward to a new day of FSU basketball, where I think a lot of excitement is now building for next year's team. And Bob, when you look at next year's team, what stands out to you?
I still feel like it's pretty deep, honestly. Maybe not on paper as deep, but let's say you're going to start for fun. Let's just try it. MJ Walker, Anthony Polite, maybe Raekwon Evans to it. We'll figure those guards out. Balsa will be better in year 2. Raekwon Gray and Malik Osborne are guys who can kind of split that big man, that kind of power forward type spot. Wyatt Wilkes with that extra year of confidence that he's had as a shooter. Be very curious to see what happens with Nathaniel Jack. We just saw very small glimpses of what he can do. But I still feel like there's enough here where this is one of the best, 2, 3, 4 ACC teams, at least going to the preseason.
Yeah, I'm with you. I definitely think Florida State is a top 4 ACC team next year. I think only Virginia that I look at now and I say, yeah, that team, at least, this early on, I feel as confident in being a really good team next year. Duke will have its, share of 5 stars. We'll see what Cassius Stanley and Vernon Carey decide to do, but both of them are expected to leave and join Trey Jones in the NBA ranks and in the NBA draft. But Duke will be Duke. They'll be really good. I don't know how good. Maybe is it top 5 Duke or is it a top 10, top 15 Duke team? North Carolina, you have to think will bounce back, but I don't think anything's guaranteed at this point in Chapel Hill. And then Louisville, we'll see. I mean, Wara's gone, Enoch's gone. They lose Dwayne Sutton, and they lose a lot of players. And right now, their best recruit, Jay Scrubb, has declared for the NBA draft. He's a junior college prospect that is getting some back end of the first round buzz, and first team JUCO All-American that would be an immediate impact player, no doubt, at 6'6" and a long wingspan. But I think Florida State, of all the teams in the ACC, them and Virginia are the 2 that I think return the most that you feel good about. Duke, again, I mentioned them, that they will be really good as well because of just the amount of talent that K brings in every single year and figures out how to mesh them. But for FSU, that starting 5, Bob, you're looking at what? Scotty Barnes, MJ Walker, potentially you could have Anthony Polite or even a Raekwon Gray at the 3 position, and then you got maybe Osborne and Balsa. Just depending, there's so many different things that you could do. Sardar Calhoun is someone that I don't think FSU fans should sleep on, a junior college player that's one of the best in the junior college ranks, a top 4, top 3 JUCO player according to the rankings this year, and he can really shoot the basketball, 6'4", 6'5" player. And I think if anything, you've learned that this is a program that has a clear identity, and that's to play with the strength of the pack with 12 players, at least 10 to 12 that Coach Hamilton can run out there. They're going to pressure you with a high defensive system and try and turn you over. And I think Florida State should have enough talent next year and enough experience. There's a lot of experience on this basketball team coming back that I don't expect much of a fall off at all. I don't know if I would project ACC regular season champions for a second straight year, but I tell you what, Bob, I fully expect Florida State to be a top 15, top 20 team and stay in there throughout the entire season.
I agree. And, I was mentioning the starters earlier. I didn't talk about Scotty Barnes just because I'm almost going in presuming he won't start. But I think if you start to wonder, what can it look like with Scotty in the mix as a starter, then yeah, maybe you could start him by the time the ACC schedule comes out. Again, I don't think that really matters as much, especially with the way Florida State plays. It's who the starters are is more of an issue for a lot of these other programs around the conference. And frankly, we've discussed it. Programs like, Notre Dame and Miami and Syracuse, they weren't very deep last season. So for them, their starters are logging, 27 to 35 minutes. And here at Florida State, it's really not at all. I mean, Trent's the high water guy at 31 plus minutes. So I'll be very curious to see what this team comes through with. I know we were talking before the podcast started. I think that I saw one CBS Sports did an all too early top 25 that had Florida State, right in there at 25. And I kind of rolled my eyes. It's national media kind of falling into that same trap as the year before. You focus on who isn't coming back instead of who is and who the recruits are. So that's fine. I think that's almost what Florida State wants. Let everybody sleep on Florida State. I think the ACC teams and coaches fully know what they're getting when they face Florida State. But I think still there's some national attention that is missing. And maybe that's missing because Florida State didn't get that chance to make a Elite Eight, Final Four kind of run this year. A run that would have put them at the forefront in those, kind of early top 25s for next season. But again, I'm not sure it's as deep of a team as what we saw, but still a very, very good team that I think will scare a lot of teams next season.
Yeah, and I think for Florida State too, Bob, you can't count out the fact that the Seminoles could add a graduate transfer to the mix for the next season as well, because at this point, they'll have 3 scholarship spots available. And so Coach Hamilton will probably look into the transfer ranks and see if he can grab anybody else. Or maybe the Noles can find a late, high school prospect right now that's a senior and much along the lines of a Devin Vassell, where underrated and kind of a diamond in the rough that they mold, and then has the prototypical length and athleticism that they can turn into the next great Florida State player. All right, well, Bob, I think we've touched on the men, and I think the future is bright for Leonard Hamilton's group, and no doubt we'll be back next year to have an exciting season of Florida State men's basketball. Now, on the women's side, their season as well comes to an end a little bit prematurely. They make the ACC tournament title game, and we're up on NC State with just a couple minutes left to go. Almost had the school's first ever ACC tournament title, and unfortunately, they couldn't close the game out, and they say goodbye now to Kaya Gillespie, Nikki Akamu, and Naja Woolfolk. But this is a team, Bob, that I thought this year showed us glimpses of a squad that I thought could make a pretty deep run in the NCAA tournament. Unfortunately, they're not going to get that chance.
On their best night, they were incredible and they were capable of beating, well, they did. They beat Louisville, a top 10 team, twice. Once on the road, once on a neutral court at the ACC tournament. I think they just had those lapses in focus type of moments. They especially came on Thursday nights, sometimes on the road, sometimes at home. I think a lot of those 8 losses were to some quality teams. Maybe they weren't ranked, but they were quality foes like Georgia Tech. You were there at Syracuse on that, crazy overtime, last second play. I think this team, I'll be curious what you think about who the starting 5 is, because when you lose Kaya, Nikki, and Naja, that's about 45 of the 72 points that the team scored on a per game basis. That production is tough to replace, even when you've got a lot of McDonald's All-Americans on the roster. So I guess I'm curious to you, not just what this team did last year, but how do you see that kind of starting 5 formulating moving forward?
Yeah, I think that's a really good question, Bob. And before we get to that, let's talk to Coach Sue Semrau, who was gracious enough to join us for this podcast to recap the season and give us a look ahead to her team next year. Here's Coach. Now joining the show is Florida State basketball head coach Sue Semrau. Coach, first off, hope you and your family are staying safe and in this crazy time that has come across not just our own country, but the entire world. When this first came down, I know we were really preparing for the NCAA tournament and getting ready to find out where we would be and who we would play. When this thing happened and you found out, what was the process of letting your team and your coaching staff know? And did you guys have a meeting and kind of discuss this thing?
Well, thanks for having me, Aria. And yeah, just everybody stay safe. And it just really shows that, we are not invincible, and the NCAA tournament basketball, it's not invincible. And I think sometimes take it for granted and think that things are going to go on no matter. And this has obviously been devastating for so many people. My family being out in Seattle has been really tough on me. And so we came back after playing in the championship game. I went out recruiting actually, and players had Monday, Tuesday off, and we got back and practiced on Wednesday, had an upbeat, sharp practice. I think, the the 5-point loss in the championship game was something that had gotten our team extra hungry. We were excited about what was ahead. The next day we were going to practice, and then they were going to take off for a abbreviated spring break, since we wouldn't find out our opponent for another week and a half. So when all this started coming down, it just didn't feel right to practice. So we met during practice and talked about what was happening. We weren't aware that the tournament had been canceled at that point. There was the possibility of playing with no fans. So when everybody took off, we fully believed that we would be back on Monday to practice and prepare. So it wasn't like our team was together. We got a chance to really talk through and see each other's reactions. It was all very much one-on-one. And then again, we didn't know what was next. By the time I left the meeting, the fans were out of the tournament. By the time I got home, the NBA had suspended the league, and then by the next day, the tournament had been canceled. So it's been a very interesting time, as we all know.
Yeah, no doubt about it. And Coach, I mean, when you did talk to your team, I'm sure they were disappointed. I know they were chomping at the bit to get back on the court soon and kind of prove not just to ourselves, but to the country that, this was the Florida State team that we all thought, we could be, and we showed in glimpses. How did that quickly turn from, getting ready for basketball to, well, this is it. And now we've got to help the three seniors kind of figure out their path for their next spots in their career. And then also looking forward to having a team next year and trying to play again.
I think, it's an ongoing process, for everyone. Obviously we're just heartbroken for the seniors as this was their last opportunity, but I'm equally as heartbroken for the freshmen who will never see that leadership that those three would have brought to the tournament this year, especially having a team full of juniors, sophomores, and freshmen next year with no senior leadership. I would have loved to have had them to see the leaders really in the tournament and all the surrounding things around it. As far as the seniors go, now it's like, wow, that just came to a screeching halt. I've got to finish my schoolwork, and then what's next? Certainly from different parts of the globe here, we're trying to figure everything out. Is the WNBA going to be played? What is next? When can someone who's choosing to go out and starting a workforce, when will that be able to happen? So it's definitely a process as we go forward.
And with some of your players, they do have some WNBA aspirations. I know Kaya is being projected on all these different mock drafts that I read. She's got a chance to really be in that first round. I know Nikki and Naja have had scouts and different teams kind of monitor them this season as well. What role do you play as a coach and your staff in trying to find out as much information as possible for those three and seeing where they might be able to fit in the next level of their professional careers?
Definitely a large role. Brooke Wyckoff is the one that they work with to secure agents and to talk to different WNBA teams right now. That's something that they've done. Kaya, I think, is the one that everyone's talking about. There's a lot of teams that have inquired about both Nikki and Naj. I think Nikki's going to opt out of the draft. I think she is going to choose to go into the workforce and going to play professionally, just because her body's tired. She really poured into it for us, and a lot of people don't know how hard it was on her knees this year as a fourth-year player. She had some challenges, so we're working with them. And, certainly we're excited about what the future holds.
And in this crazy time, they've pretty much, we can't be around each other. We can't face to face and meet a lot. So what is this, this era of technology? How have you been able to stay in touch with your team, and not just, the girls coming back and some of the ones that are going on to the next level, into the next phase of their life, but what about recruiting? I mean, this is such a unique time for all of that, because as you know better than anyone, your job your job requires you to be pretty much present 24 hours, 7 days a week.
Yeah, for sure. I've had a hard time keeping my phone charged, honestly. It's constant. And I prefer one-on-one conversations. And so I've done a lot of those over FaceTime with our players, with our recruits. We've done some virtual home visits since we were cut short in that contact period by the NCAA. So we've spent some time as a staff with families and virtual meetings. So it's almost more work right now than if we were able to do it from an office area or get out and to see people. But again, it is what it is. And we certainly want to do our part to keep the country safe.
Yeah, absolutely. And coaches, as we look to next year's team, I know I've had a lot of fans already reach out and ask me, well, what about the Seminoles next year? What should we expect to see from Coach Sue's program? And I said, there's a lot of different moving pieces and into this entire thing. From your words, what excites you most about what you have coming back next year?
Well, I think they've got a lot of young talent and they've got a lot of opportunity. That's like 2 years ago. They got a lot of opportunity to play in big time situations. We've also been recruiting some transfer students. We knew that would be something. We maybe liked that mix maybe more than we did this freshman class coming in. So we've already gotten one commitment and we're working on a couple of others. So will be a new look, but I think it'll be really exciting and a lot of talent out on the floor.
Now, one of those transfers that maybe not for this year, but one that we've already had on the roster, Bianca Jackson. What excites you most about her game? I know she's kind of had the same buzz around her that Kaya had when she sat out in her transfer year. What can Bianca bring to the table for this basketball team?
As talented as she is, and she can play offensively on every level. She's a long, athletic defender. She brings some sass. I mean, that she wants to win, and I'll tell you what, she ran our scout team this year, and boy, there were plenty of times when she was all over the guys for not doing the right thing. So it's going to be really fun to watch her in action next year.
And you had 3 players who had to battled injury, some in the off season, and Savannah Wilkinson during the season. Just those 3. Are you looking forward to what they can do for you next year? I know Isabella Nicoletti's one that has a lot of people just interested in seeing what she can bring to the table as well.
Yeah, I think I'm really excited to see them all. Yeah, I know that Isa's been highly touted before she was injured, and now that she's coming back from injury, I think she's hungrier than ever, and that's a scary thing for other opponents, I tell you. And I look at Sam and just how much she's bringing in this year, ready to step in and really fill some gaps. And then I think about Faith Lassiter, whose basketball IQ is far and away the best on our team. And even though she battled back from injury, she always is able to give us a spark. And so I'm excited about those 3 returns.
You mentioned your freshmen and, Sammy and River, of course, London. But this is a basketball team that had a lot of freshmen and sophomores. How much do you feel like, and do you hope that ACC tournament, because it is the final act of this season that we are going to be able to see, how much do you hope that positive success that they were able to build can help them growing into next year? Because there are some roles that I thought, Courtney Weber, one player who really showed having that it factor in the tournament, and Sammy and River having some big moments and big shots against some top 10 teams. How do you hope that experience allows them to grow and then take that next step in their sophomore and junior years?
Well, I think that's where we saw the best of the young players. I thought Morgan Jones did really well. I thought we got really good minutes there in that first game of the NCAA tournament. River, I think when she went up against Tulane, I thought that was the best she had played in quite some time. So I'm excited. I think they're right now just chomping at the bit to get on a court somewhere. I know that Courtney Weber told me that in New Orleans they're taking the rims off of the backboards on the outdoor courts because they don't want parties of two being together. So, I mean, it's extreme. I mean, there's everyone in the country now who wants to work on their game is at a bit of a disadvantage. But I think that the hunger for them to stay in shape right now has been extremely evident. And finding ways, Isabella found an app where she can work on her ball handling by looking into her phone. I mean, it's incredible, like the hunger that these kids have.
And then, Coach, my final question for you. I know there's been in the NCAA right now just the question marks of, well, what do we do with not just spring seasons, but winter seasons and the seniors and the athletes? Do we give them a year back? Do we not? When they do make that decision, just from a coach's perspective, you and along with, your fellow coaches all around the country, what would be some of the positives and maybe some of the challenges that you guys would face if they did allow seniors to come back or vice versa, they didn't?
Well, I think it would be a positive all the way around. I don't believe that's going to happen for the winter sports, but I do, with the spring, obviously they didn't get to participate in 10% of their season. And so, where we got to participate in 90% of our season. But I do think that the challenges are going to be for those spring sports that the roster sizes are going to be different. And it's not just a financial issue, but it's also an issue of playing time for all of the players that are on the team. So I think it's the right thing to do with the spring sports. I think it'll be a challenge, but I think it's the right thing to do.
Well, Coach, I appreciate it as always, and your input, your perspective, and obviously your time here today. Stay safe. Please take care of your family and yourself, and let's hope we can all get back to doing what we love soon.
You too, Aria. Thanks so much.
Let Bags VIP Luggage Delivery make travel easier to FSU games. Bags VIP was founded over 25 years ago by a former Florida State basketball player and has been trusted by major airlines, cruise lines, and world-famous resorts ever since. To use Bags VIP Luggage Delivery, simply check your bags at the airport for your flight, and a Bags agent will pick up your luggage at baggage claim at your final destination airport and deliver to you within 100 miles. That way, you won't miss a minute of the game and your friends. Visit maketraveleasier.com/FSU.
Coach Sue is the best and one of the most revered coaches in women's college basketball. Everyone around Tallahassee loves her. Her players love her, and she's done such an excellent job with Florida State throughout her tenure in Tallahassee. A shame that we won't find out what this year's team could have done, because there was a chance to make a Sweet 16 and Elite Eight and really stamp another mark on the legacy that is Florida State women's basketball and the powerhouse that they are. But yeah, Bob, to answer your question about the starting five, I think next year, you've got to welcome back Bianca Jackson, who transferred from South Carolina, had to sit out this year. She's really good and really capable. She had, I believe, 18 or 20 points against UConn 2 seasons ago when she was with South Carolina. And so she has shown the ability to score at a really high level against some elite competition. And if she played for Coach Staley at South Carolina, that she has a personality and a demeanor of the type of basketball player that you want in your program. She could start at the point guard position. I think, Morgan Jones and Courtney Weber are 2 players that I feel like will start. Courtney Weber really started to come on at the end of this year. And Mo Jones is, I think, one of the most intriguing prospects Florida State has on its team. And then, you look at maybe a River Baldwin and a Valencia Myers who plays the 5 there. Maybe you go 2 bigs and you got to just kind of figure out what works. I mean, off the bench this year, Sammy Puisis could be another player that, could start, but even if she doesn't, she's a McDonald's All-American that showed, 40% 3-point shot this year. But Bob, I think it's what didn't play this season that will help Florida State more next year. And I know I just mentioned Bianca Jackson, but Isabella Nicoletti, a former 5-star point guard who has had 2 ACL injuries in her, in the offseason of her first 2 years. She hasn't even stepped on the court yet for FSU, and she has a lot of talent. She's a true point guard, something this team hasn't had in quite a few years, really since Leticia Romero. And she's going to come in, and if she's healthy and in shape and ready to go, she's going to make this basketball team so much better from day one. And then you have, Cece Lassiter, Amaya Brown, who both are such good defensive players that do a lot for the team, and Say can really hit the shot from the outside. Savannah Wilkinson, you got to remember, didn't get to play much this year either, and she's a veteran that provides a big body down low, can step out and hit a jump shot as well. So I am really high on this Florida State basketball team for next year for Sue Semrau. I think, losing the big three, as we call them, it's going to hurt. It's going to sting, absolutely, no doubt. But I do think next year, having the sum of their parts, I didn't mention London Clarkson, but she's another player that I think could take a huge step from year one to year two. This team should have more depth, and as a team could be much more gelled together and doing some of the things like playing defense, rebounding on a consistent basis, that I think maybe the drop-off isn't as far or as big as we might think it could be when you lose a Gillespie, a Kamu, and Woolfolk.
Yeah, it's interesting. I think you're much closer to the team. I think I'm encouraged by what you're saying about a deeper team. I think that's something that we didn't see as much of, enough of in 2019-20. We didn't see enough depth. We didn't see enough 3-point shooting. But, what you're stating, I think is very encouraging. And it's maybe that natural progression. It's players going from year 2 to year 3, taking that next step, being starters, being leaned on. I think I've heard so much about Nicoletti that I'm so incredibly curious. I'd love to see her, practice or be in an exhibition when basketball returns in the fall. I'm so curious to see what she can do on the court. We just heard it for so long. A team that I don't want to say has a lot of question marks. That's maybe too unfair, but I think there's just so much positive upside maybe with so many of these players.
Yeah, I think that's the best word, is that there's upside. And I think it's just unknown. How are these players going to gel? But the talent's going to be there. You have McDonald's All-Americans and Puisis, Baldwin, Myers, and Nicoletti. Bianca Jackson, as I mentioned, was a former Alabama Gatorade Player of the Year. So she's going to step right. And I actually do believe Bianca Jackson is a sure thing. Like, you can count on her next year to almost just take one of the leadership roles of a scoring player, and she's tenacious on the defensive end. Bob, I did get to watch her in scouting, and when they were having the scout team play against the roster this year to just get them ready for games, she was awesome. And it was a lot like Kaya Gillespie when she transferred and had to sit out. You could see it in practice and say, yeah, that's going to translate immediately. And so I think Jackson will be really good. But yeah, to your point, this basketball team is going to need some players to take a step forward. Courtney Weber is going to have to show you on a more consistent basis that she can, put the ball in the bucket. She did that quite a few times as the year went on. Can Morgan Jones develop a little bit more offensively so that she's not, one-dimensional, because we already know what she can do in the open court and on the defensive end. And then you're looking at Valencia Myers, maybe can she take the step forward as a post player? Because I feel like for FSU, they haven't had consistent post play for a couple of years now where they can really rely on a beast down low. And both Myers and Baldwin have the potential to be just that for FSU. But Bob, I think, if you're Sue Semrau, more times than not, I think she deserves the benefit of the doubt, right? More times than not, she has figured it out for FSU and put together at least a competitive product.
Yeah, it's a shame. 24-8, this team would have hit 25 probably with that first round victory of the NCAA tournament. I know Sue Semrau considers 25 wins to be a benchmark for her program, not necessarily hitting that 20-win mark. And Florida State has done that pretty consistently, hitting 25. And, she's done it by developing these players, by, also creating a family atmosphere very similar in that regard to what Coach Hamilton has done. So I think, again, it's the same way. It's a disappointment that this season didn't get to play out, that we couldn't see a hot Florida State team, a hot and even rested with would have been 2 weeks off before they would have had to travel in all likelihood to a first and second round matchup. But I think they could have been very dangerous. I think they could have, definitely made a run to the Sweet 16 if the matchups had been very favorable. But we're seeing, again, Sue Semrau continuing the very excellent work that she's done. I can remember all the way back to the mid-90s, she was, taking a program that couldn't win 10 games in a season and slowly building and growing. And now it's clearly one of the most respected programs, not just in the ACC, but really in college basketball and women's college basketball.
Yeah, you hit the nail on the head there. And, they could add a transfer as well from the graduate transfer ranks. And you never know. So that team is still, TBA as to be announced, TBD, to be declared. And we'll have more on Florida State women's basketball as their summer goes on and as we get ready for the 2020-2021 basketball season. All right, Bob. Well, I think this is going to be our final podcast for a little bit, at least. We'll just take a hiatus and, with hoop season winding down, hope you and your family stay safe. And, everyone out there, please stay safe, stay inside, practice social distancing. Let's get this thing, let's get over the hump with this thing and get back to our daily lives. Our thoughts and prayers are with everyone right now who is battling. If you know somebody who's gotten the virus, if you've been affected by it in your family, I hope you haven't. But if you have, our thoughts are with you, and just stay safe.
Stay safe, stay positive. Use sports as good memories. Watch games on YouTube, kind of relive the good old days of what Florida State did. And, if you have a chance with your family members, talk about those days, play basketball in the driveway with your family, kind of keep sports close as a distraction from all those headlines, because they've been tough to read. They've been tough to watch the news, and it might get worse before it gets better. But I think it's encouraging to use sports as a distraction, even without games. Let's go on and watch those classic games on YouTube, or ACC Network is replaying a lot of great games from the fall season. So again, stay safe, stay positive, and we will talk to you soon.
I want to thank our sponsors, Bags and Madison Social, and want to thank you for listening to us all throughout the season. We will be back next year, ready to rock and roll. It's an exciting time for Florida State men's and women's basketball. The programs are doing exactly what we had hoped they would do, and that's remain at the elite level in the sport. And so if you could, 5 stars on iTunes for us. We will do everything we can next year to be more available on different outlets and different podcast hosting systems, and 5 stars on iTunes. Give us a review if you can. Share this with your friends. Let them know that Tuck Talk is the premier Florida State basketball podcast, and we really do appreciate you. Until next time, until we meet again, Aria Masudi and Bob Ferranti signing off.